Hi, I'm Tom Loucks, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Coordinator for the City of Wisconsin Rapids. And today I have the coroner in. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, our coroner is Dara, and she's going to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her family, if she's grown up here in this area, and then we're going to get to know what a coroner does. I think that's a big question, and it'll help you guys as when you're out at the polls, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks. It's Wednesday, we're taping this, 2 weeks from November 6th. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your last name, please.
Hi, I'm Dara Hamm, current Wood County coroner, running for re-election on November 6th. Running under the Democratic ticket. This is a partisan election, so we do need to pick a party to join. This is a very bipartisan position, meaning that everybody's treated equally. I have no say or power when it comes to anything legislative-wise. I can't vote on anything. So although we do have to pick a party because it is a partisan election, this is a very bipartisan position, and I always treat people equally regardless of what their political affiliation is. I never ask anyone their political affiliation. To me, that's a very small part of this, but it is an important question, especially when it comes to an election. Kind of my background a little bit here is I grew up in Rapids. I went to Lincoln High School, or graduated from Lincoln High School. And after that, I went to school in River Falls, studied criminal justice, chemistry, biology, all three of those things. I came back to the area and have been here ever since. While I was in high school, I joined Wood County Sheriff's Rescue, so I had an opportunity kind of to get into that emergency medicine, work as a first responder, EMT, and kind of build my career from there. With Wood County Rescue, I had the opportunity to go out to many different calls, many different scenes, saw the coroner in action, kind of developed my first interest a little bit in that position. So that was 20 years ago. Okay. I also, with the chemistry, biology, criminal justice, had that kind of taste for forensic science and medicine, which really kind of drove my desire even more to become the coroner. Okay. This job encompasses many different levels. It encompasses the medicine aspect of things, working with families, the grieving, that aspect, the emotional part of things, which I love helping people. So that's what's great about this job. It also encompasses the investigation, the science, or just the overall investigation, forensic part of things. Okay. So by being able to do those three things, that's really what drives me to do this position. This position is all three things and so much more, really.
I'm going to stop you for 1 minute. Everything's working fine, but I just don't like the total side. I want to move that over a little.
Sure.
And I'll cut this part out.
Okay.
I just want to do it before you came to another thought. Normally I don't do that, but I think it's just going to make a better production if we go just to your camera. And I want to get, I don't want just the side of you. Just the waivers.
Hey, you do what you need to do. I can talk.
Ah, good. Oh, that's not where I want. This little thing here. Yeah, see, now when you look, just take a look at me. Yeah, that's better. It's not just so much of a profile shot. And I don't want to do that to you. Wow, am I going gray?
Spray paint. Spray paint.
I think so. No. Let's go up a little bit. I'll cut all this out or somebody's going to think we're crazy. Me. Don't worry, I'll cut it out. I have to go through all this stuff. Okay. That's better. All right. Remember where we left off? Let's think about where we left off. Because I don't totally do some technical thing here too. You talked about all the pieces of being a coroner, a little bit of it, like the science behind of it. What was the next piece you were going to say? And then we'll go on.
Talked about the science, medical aspect, kind of what the job encompasses.
And then I interrupted you. Do you know where you were going to go?
I could go a couple different directions with
Do you want to pick it up, or do you want me to just ask a new question starting now?
I can pick it up.
Okay, I'm going to go back to both of us, and then you go ahead and just pick it up now when you're ready.
So that's what the job encompasses, but my background is even deeper than that. Before taking the position of the coroner, I worked for 16 years and actually still currently work as a first assist, but I've worked as a surgical tech, medical assistant, first assist. So I've worked in the hospital. In addition to the EMS work that I've done, I also work in the hospital. And I've seen a variety of different calls, different situations. Although it's surgical, there's so much that the job really encompasses that really kind of has driven my medical background and strengthened my knowledge of things. So that's my overall background between the medicine, between the volunteer work and EMS work that I did. And really what I think is very important for the coroner position is to have that strong medical knowledge, that medical background, and the ability to kind of work with my information that I've learned in schooling, but also to be able to work with others. As the coroner, what you need to do is determine the cause and manner of death, ultimately. To do that, I'm drawing from many different directions. I'm drawing from the scenes. I'm drawing from the person's medical background, information I obtain from families, information I obtain from law enforcement, and really multiple aspects of a scene or of a call are looked at before cause and manner of death are determined. Sometimes that the cause and manner can be determined fairly easily or quickly. Sometimes you need to look further. You need to look deeper. By doing that, you need to do an autopsy. The coroner's responsibility is to determine if an autopsy is indeed needed, if a further investigation is needed, again, to determine that cause and manner of death. So as I've taken this job, I've really worked and developed relationships to be able to work with forensic pathologists, to be able to work with the toxicologists, with law enforcement, with families, with the health departments, with all different various areas in order to get the truth, the right answers, and really help a family through the most difficult times of their life. And that's really what's very important with the coroner's job, is to take things slow and be thorough.
Yeah, wow. I didn't know a lot about it. I bet our viewers don't know a lot about this. I guess I want to clarify a little bit of a coroner. A coroner goes to pronounce someone passed away. Is that correct?
Okay. So a coroner's job is to, like I said, determine the cause and manner of death. We are called into many different situations. So we're called if somebody passes away at home, it's unexpected. If they pass away for a traffic accident or an accident in general, if there's a trauma involved in things, we are contacted to determine cause and manner of death for all of those situations.
Okay, so not just a general, someone passing away in a hospital or a nursing home? Right. You don't go to those, is that right?
We do.
We do?
At times.
Okay.
There is a lot with the coroner's position. We are governed under state statute 979.
Oh, okay.
So there is actually a state statute that spells out when a coroner must be contacted and when a coroner does not need to be contacted. Or realistically, it's not necessarily when they don't need to be contacted, but more so when they must be contacted. Each coroner, medical examiner throughout the state has the opportunity to kind of build on that, and they may require being contacted more than others. It is all up to that coroner of that individual county. But what they must be contacted for is what's listed in state statute 979, and that would be hospital deaths under 24 hours. That would be traffic fatalities or anything dealing with a trauma. And a lot of those other ones that I just spelled out.
Now, before we were on camera, it's really a 24-hour, 7 days a week?
Correct.
So what do you do if you want to go on vacation? How does that work?
I've been coroner, this is the end of my first term, so 4 years. There's been one time that I left for a period of time to take a vacation.
Right.
During that time, I had my deputy coroners actually cover for me.
Okay.
So as a coroner, you must appoint deputy coroners. Again, it's up to the coroner to determine how many you need and what that schedule looks like. In Wood County, we have 3 deputy coroners in addition to myself.
Okay.
As long as calls are being covered by one of those deputies or multiple of those deputies, that would allow me to be able to take a vacation. But I also feel as the coroner, as someone that's in charge of the department, I need to be around, I need to be available, and even if I know my deputies are covered, I will bring my phone with me. I'm available for them to call, ask questions to, and if it's a horribly tragic scene, I will come back and assist with it.
Okay, so who calls you out? Is it from the police, dispatch? How does that work?
Right, good question. Our dispatch center, so those that dispatch, the EMTs, fire department, they also dispatch us.
Okay.
There are times where we get calls directly from funeral homes. Kind of another fact with the coroner is all cremations have to be approved by the coroner's office. So those calls typically come from the funeral homes who are meeting with the families and determining that disposition for them. So then they contact us and we go that route as well. But majority of our calls are dispatched through the dispatch center.
All right. Now, this is your first term, and what is a term, a 2, 4 year?
This is a 4-year term.
Okay, so you're running in this election because now you did this for 4 years, or were you placed someone?
Right. No, I started 4 years ago, so this is the end of my 4
Okay,
years.
so you've went through the election process
Correct.
before, and this wasn't appointed and then into that
Correct.
position. Okay, that's what I was trying.
Yep.
And I've never had a chance to interview a coroner. I have, as a news photographer, covered it. I think everyone knows that my career was as news photography,
Right.
so I've been out into those kinds of scenes, and they had the blue coat. That I don't remember that individual's name at that time, gentleman.
Yeah, I prior to my
prior to
election, Gary Cronstead was the coroner.
Yeah, that's who
for
it was.
Wood County, yeah.
Okay, and I remember Gary. So he retired, and
Correct.
and then that's where you had your chance to get in, and you were serving out already with paramedics and working out in there. We talked about it.
Prior to me taking, I was
Yep.
working as a volunteer, a first responder, and then
Okay.
also as a surgical tech medical assistant.
Okay, so that, even before all that, you that's really what led you to where you're at.
Correct.
Seeing and helping people,
Mhm.
and you think as a coroner they just go there, oh, person's passed away and you leave. That's not the case, right?
No.
So, does there any requirement of any schooling that has to be taken since it is an elected position, or can just anybody like myself go and do this? I would be nervous to go do it. It'd be like being an attorney. How do you?
Right.
You better know how to do it, or how do you do the job?
Right. I agree wholeheartedly there. In the state of Wisconsin, and right now this is definitely a kind of a hot topic, especially among coroners, medical examiners, those that do work in the field. In the state of Wisconsin, based on state statute, you have to be 18, not have a felony on your record, and elected into the position. Now, to me, that is a very scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
I personally feel, as do many of the coroners, medical examiners, like I said, that there should be requirements, that there should be different educational levels, things like that need to be required of this position. One way that the county, that the states can combat that is actually to change some legislation and require that. That has been worked on for at least 20 years to try to get legislation to mandate those requirements, and it hasn't happened at this point in time. I do belong to the Wisconsin Coroners Medical Examiners Association, and we as a group do push that legislation. We are trying to get that. That is something that I believe strongly in, and why I'm pursuing certification as a medical legal death investigator, which is ultimately what we as coroners, medical examiners want to see happen. So no, there's not currently requirements, but I do believe there is a strong need for that. There's a reason for that. Majority of the calls that we do have are medical calls. It's not what you see on TV where there's the homicides and you're trying to figure out who did it. That's not our job. Our job is to strictly say, this is why that person died. Was it a heart attack? Was it an aneurysm? Was it their diabetes? Was it dementia? We're looking at all of that information to determine that. That is not something, in my opinion, that the general public or anyone from the general public without that background would be able to come in and understand.
No, very difficult. Now, are you doing this on scene, or is there any work beyond the scene when you're there to figure this out?
Right.
What's the homework? Is there homework involved after you leave?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell me about that.
So on scene, whether it be even in the hospital or whether it be at someone's home or wherever we're at, we're doing an initial investigation of what's there.
Okay.
When we leave, we're looking at medical records. We're talking with hospitals and facilities. Sometimes I'm having to contact hospitals and facilities that may be outside of the state. They may be outside of the county, depending on what the situation is. I may have to reach back out to law enforcement, to family, to those that were around the scene, just to say, okay, this is what I'm questioning, this is what I'm seeing. If somebody fell and broke their hip, when did that happen? I have to research and look back to find out when that injury happened.
Mm-hmm.
Did someone decline after that happened, and that ultimately is what caused their death? Those are all the things that I'm looking at when I'm determining that cause and manner of death, and all of that is, majority of the time, that is done outside of the scene.
Okay, so do you have an office here at the county?
Correct.
Built in the courthouse?
Yep. In the courthouse, when I took over, that was actually one of my requests, is to find office space for me at the courthouse, because it was not there prior to me taking over office.
Oh, they work pretty much out of their home.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I do have office space there. Now, with that said, this job is throughout the entire county. I'm going to different funeral homes. I'm going to different hospitals. I'm going to different locations to do a lot of that. So I do travel from location to location on a regular basis to do my job as well.
Now, is there, like Portage County, do you have a vehicle that says coroner here in Wood County? I don't
Wood
know.
County does not.
Okay, so when you come into the scene, you look like a civilian, right? So most people, you have identification to something?
Yes, we actually, myself as well as the deputies, we actually have, they look very similar to a police badge that indicates whether we're a coroner, deputy coroner, and we can identify ourselves with that.
Okay, but you don't wear an official uniform like a police officer, right?
Not like a police officer.
Just
Usually I'll wear a polo,
Okay.
or sometimes I'm just dressed kind of more on a professional
Sure.
level. Majority of the scenes that we're coming into with law enforcement and working together as a team.
Right.
This is very much a team job.
Okay, so say something happened now and we were to get a call. Do you need to rush there quickly, or does it depend on what it is? Like if it's a traffic fatality, ultimately they're going to need you there so they don't have to keep traffic backed up, correct?
Correct.
So if we were to get that call, you probably would have to get going, correct? To a point.
Yes, to a point, correct. So when I get a call, every call I look at and I get information that I need prior to scene,
Okay.
as do my deputies. My goal, and what I have asked the deputies to do as well, is to respond to scenes as efficiently and quickly as possible, but also be safe and understand what we're going to. Part of the 3 deputies that I have, some are in North End, which is the Marshfield area, some are, and myself and another deputy kind of cover down here. So we do have the county split to keep things efficient there. So nobody has to wait an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours for someone to get there, that our response time can be sufficient. Nobody wants a family to sit there and be waiting and grieving and that tragic, whether it be at home or even a car accident, that you know that, okay, this is not a good situation. In car accident situations like that too, we're working with law enforcement. Sometimes they need to do a reconstruction. So it's working with law enforcement, so I'm not compromising their scene, and I'm still able to get in to do what I need to do with that body. When you're looking at those complicated scenes, that's where I say this is a very team-oriented job. Law enforcement is in charge of that scene.
Okay.
So whether that be a car accident, something in a home that's traumatic, a business, wherever it may be, I know unfortunately hear all the time about school shootings, things like that.
Yeah.
Should something tragic like that happen, I can't just go in and do my job. I need to make sure they can do their job, and I'm not compromising that as well. That I'm getting in there with their assistance to ultimately look at just that decedent and not their scene, which is why we're working together to do those things. So we're answering efficiently, but with a team effort and team approach in mind as well.
Okay. Let's talk just about records. You now have an office.
Correct.
And there's going to be records, and they probably need to be confidential, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when how does someone handle that after in an elected position? Are they still expected to hand over anything to the county if they were not here?
Right.
After they're served? I'm just curious how that works.
Right. So it would be very similar to, the police department, sheriff's department, anything like that. Those records, belong to the coroner's office, but that is part of the county. So right now, I've made all of our reports electronic, so they're all housed on the server through the county and available that way. There's very few people that actually have access to that. Yeah. However, they are available, so should someone else be in this office position, they have them.
Exactly. And let's talk about something that was maybe a homicide or something. And that's a touchy subject or time, I should say, to deal with the family. And maybe someone doesn't want to cooperate. What do? Do you get a police officer involved at that time? They don't want to give you the information you're asking for?
Well, and although my job is to kind of be able to get information from those families, from those friends, from those people around, that is also looked at as part of the scene. Okay. So ultimately, like I said, I am looking at the person that has passed away and their cause and manner of death. Getting that outside information is very valuable and very important, but yes, absolutely, I'm going to look at law enforcement ultimately to get that information, because they're the ones that are investigating those people, what happened at that scene. That's where I would look at the person that has passed away and say, okay, we need to get an autopsy. We need to do additional testing potentially, whether that means toxicology, whether that means additional histology tests, or wherever that autopsy would lead us to do additional testing to get us those answers. And I utilize the forensic pathologist really to help me with that, and that's the importance of the coroner, is to be able to understand and know and recognize when we need to do that.
Okay. I just kind of want to put a little bit of a picture together. Sure. I don't want to go any details or anything. Right. Just you get on scene, and your first thing again, and if I went through this before, I'm sorry, you pronounce the person dead. Is that part of what you have to do right away?
Correct.
Because nobody else can say that except coroner on scene. Is that correct?
The coroner on the scene, yes. When it's a home call, when the coroner is called in, our job is to determine that time of death. Okay. So pronounce that time of death, which is why a state statute indicates that we have to be contacted as immediately upon someone's death.
That's what I thought.
Yes. However, if that person is in the hospital and passes away, let's say they're under hospice care, palliative care, a physician would go ahead and sign and do that pronouncing of time. So there are some situations in which the coroner does not have to pronounce, but when we are contacted and it is our scene, that is our job to pronounce.
Especially a fatality, a traffic fatality. Correct. Or pedestrian. So the time is not really the time of maybe it happened. It's the time that the coroner pronounces. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I don't, how do you? Do you feel pulse? Or what is the protocol to really do to make sure?
So kind of one of the protocols, or one of the things that our county is set up to do anytime that a call is brought in. EMS is typically called as well. So a lot of times EMS will be there prior to us. They will do EKG strips to see that, as you hear in TV, that people are flatlined or they're asystole. So we know that they don't have a pulse, that we know already. They'll leave us a copy of those strips, so we see that upon our entering. So that's one of the things that we look at. But yes, we're checking for a pulse. We're checking for, is that person breathing? Is there anything shallow there? We're looking for injuries. We're looking for a number of different things upon our arrival to determine, if that person is deceased or not.
Have you ever had anybody that's not deceased?
I have not.
And I'm sure it's happened though.
I've read reports of it happening.
Somewhere,
yes.
not maybe in our in the world, that a coroner
Absolutely.
actually gets there. I mean, you see this on TV. That's why.
Right.
I mean, and TV is TV. But you know, that's what I think a lot of our viewers here are going to think of a coroner. So this is going to really help them when they go to the polls to know, why am I voting for a coroner?
Right.
You know, all they do is this.
Right.
That is so untrue.
Right.
So we were able to really clarify a lot of things of what your position does, and you feel that, you know, you need to have that experience to do this, and your prior experiences in what you've done as a volunteer.
Absolutely.
And schooling has made you ready for this position.
Right.
All right.
Another big reason that, or another big way that I kind of prepared for this position and taking over is I did seek out other coroners, medical examiners, forensic pathologists throughout the state to get information about what is it this job does. What do I need to know? Is this really what I want to do? So I had that background knowledge before I came in. And I'm very thankful because over the course of my term here, I have been able to utilize those persons and their expertise as well. So there's a number of coroners, medical examiners, where if I have a question, I can give them a call, or if I need their assistance in any way, shape, or form, I can reach out to them. And really, they've mentored me and helped me grow, understand, and learn the job firsthand. And with the coroners or with the pathologists that we've utilized, I've been very fortunate that we've developed a relationship where I can call them and consult on a case, but not necessarily take a person down for autopsy. I can send them medical records and send them pictures of a scene and talk things through with them, and they'll help me. And that's been a huge asset because it's also helped me, as we haven't really talked about, do the administrative part of the job.
Yeah.
So I have a budget that I have to follow. And so they've helped with get those solid, real good answers by looking at those medical records, by looking at them and using their forensic expertise as pathologists. And really, that's been a huge asset for me to learn by, as well as for the county to have.
Yeah, because it sounds like you need equipment too to do this job. It's not just yourself.
Correct.
Whatever's in, I remember with Gary with the bag, that's probably changed over the years.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many years he did this. Quite a while, right?
It was a number of years.
So now you're more into the digital field.
Correct.
And it's changed.
Absolutely.
So back then maybe he didn't use the server, just the way he did the things. So now we're into 2018, going to 2019, and this is how that works. So the administrative piece is, so does the county board then go through your budget? Is that how that works?
Correct. I answer to our county board's safety committee.
Okay.
So once a month we meet. They're the ones that look at our budget. They're the ones that want to know what type of things we're doing, and just they're overseeing what this position is. So although it's an elected position and it's governed by those state statutes,
right.
I do have a county board that I answer to.
Okay, so you don't actually answer to Doug Mahan, or he's not your boss. There's no boss. Really, the people are your boss in an elected position.
Correct.
It's really how that works. I guess it gets a little confusing in government and how that works. But one question I have is, are we unique, or is it common that a coroner is an elected position, or is it appointed in other places?
Right. It is appointed in other places. To give an example, just to look at our neighbors, Portage County. Portage County currently has a coroner system. They will be, as of 2019, switching over to a medical examiner position. Kind of goes back to what we had talked about, the importance of education. So, and training and that aspect of things within this position. So the state has given each county the opportunity to decide, do you want a coroner? Do you want a medical examiner? The county board then has that opportunity to decide what they want to do. If they would choose to keep the coroner, which we have, then it becomes this election, and the people of the county get to decide who do you want in, what's important to you. Should the county board decide, hey, we're going to go with a medical examiner, they would then have the opportunity and the ability to appoint someone. Now, kind of the misnomer there is that the county board does not have to appoint a physician. Everybody thinks a medical examiner is a physician. That is untrue. A medical examiner is simply an appointed position. So the county board would be able to say, we want these requirements of our medical examiner. We want them to have the medical legal death examination certification. We would want them to have some kind of medical background, or you know what, we don't feel those things are important, and this, either way, they have the opportunity to set those requirements for the position, and then it would become an appointed position. So currently in the state, I believe the numbers are 33 of the counties in the state have medical examiners. The rest are coroners.
All right, so more coroners.
Correct.
I'm trying to think of all the county numbers. I don't want to count the counties
Correct.
on our show here, but okay, all right. That definitely gives us some information about how that works. And you hear that nowadays in a lot of positions like clerks, treasurers. Things are changing in that area because of the difficultiness of the job, and technically an elected position could be me if I lived
Correct.
here and I don't know anything about it. Now and I get elected, what's going to happen? It's going to be hard, right?
In my opinion, yes, especially after doing this job here.
Yeah.
To have the background I have, to have the knowledge that I've been able to get and obtain from the various classes that I've gone to. Actually, this year I went to St. Louis for a week to a medical legal death investigation training, and actually was trained for a week on how to specifically do that, to meet those updated standards and to do the job thoroughly and very well. So that's been a tremendous asset, along with all of those people that have mentored me.
All right. Well, before we ask the last question, why should a voter vote for you? Is there anything else that maybe I've missed that you wanted to share on our program before I ask that question? You can talk to the audience. Anything different about a coroner? Or I know you enjoy it. It sounds like that's it's not just a job for you.
Right. No, this is definitely not just a job for me. I definitely take this job very, very seriously. I very much want to be there for those in the community. I understand that these are difficult times, that this is a difficult situation that you're dealing with, and my goal is to be there every step of the way. Anytime that I go to a scene, anytime I have my deputies go to a scene, the expectation is that we are there to answer your questions and help you through a process, and give you the best answers that we can give you. The correct answers is the goal. I mentioned the fact that really we're here to help those families. At a scene, there's a lot of times people don't talk about, what happens if I die? What happens if my wife passes away? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And I will sit down with the families and we give them options. We're asking them very difficult questions. We're not expecting answers back right away. This could be a long drawn out scene of an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours a day. And there's no rights, there's no wrongs. It's to go through things step by step. We're asking people difficult questions as far as what funeral home are they going to go with? Other counties will have their offices will have a vehicle that can transport their decedents on behalf of the coroner's office. Our county does not have that ability, so we utilize our funeral homes, and really they assist us with the removal of decedents. Sometimes we can't find families, and we have to make decisions in those situations. So when we're there to talk with those families, we will give them their options, and things are up to them. Those choices are up to them. There's no rights, there's no wrongs with what they do. And I really want people to know that this is not something that needs to be done in a speedy, expedited fashion by any means. We're here to answer those questions and work through those processes. If families aren't around, if they're not able to be there to answer some of those questions, then we will utilize a funeral home. We do that on a rotating basis. And once those families then are able to be notified, we will we'll explain what the situation is, what happens, give those families the options. Like I said, as our office, we don't have a morgue to go to. So at the time of notifying the family, then we're giving them choices. We're telling them that things are not set. Even if their loved one has been taken to one location, it is their choice to be able to make their funeral arrangements wherever they may want to make. It's their choice of how they want to do their arrangements. They'll work with the funeral homes on that. That is not part of my job at all here. It's just to help facilitate them and work through that grieving process, in addition to determining that cause and manner of death.
Okay, so it's a body. I guess that's what we have to refer to it as.
A decedent.
And a decedent.
A decedent.
A decedent. Okay. And that goes, if we're not sure what happened, if it's a homicide or something, it still goes to the funeral home? Is that how that still works?
So, yep.
I'm just curious.
Right. Currently, Wood County does not have a morgue to utilize.
That's what I.
So, kind of, one thing with this job is there is not a this then this. There is always that situation that we're looking at everything differently. So if we're in a situation where it's a homicide or a natural death, and I have family in front of me that I'm able to talk to, I will ask them, is there a funeral home that you would like to work with? A lot of times people don't know. I will let them know who's in the area, and if they want to call family, if they want to wait because they want somebody else there for support, a friend, whomever it may be, we take that time, we take it slow. However, there are times where people are what we call indigent, so they don't have family. We're not able to find a sibling, we're not able to find children, husbands, parents, and at that point we can't just leave someone in the hospital, or we can't just leave them at their home after they've passed. We have to take them somewhere. Without having a morgue, we will then go to a funeral home and continue to find the family. Once family is found, then those families at that point will be given a choice to go wherever they want. It's not my decision.
Right, it's out of the coroner's hands.
Right.
It's now in the funeral home's hands, and they will take care of the son.
Correct, the decedent. Correct.
That right.
Correct.
Is,
I know that's been a huge topic of conversation here as we've campaigned, and people have asked, how does that process work? So
so I think we went through that process. Now, I do have another question, just a little question. I'll keep the show going. But what happens if it's somebody you know? How would you handle that yourself? It's a friend, maybe even a family member. And you're the coroner of Wood County. It happens here. What do you do?
Right. Everything you take slow. There are definitely situations that I've been involved in where I have known the decedent, especially growing up in this area. You become very close with many people, and you understand it. That is what's great about having a team, about having deputies to work with. In addition to that, that's what's great about having other coroners, medical examiners around the area that are there to lend an ear to, lend a hand in those situations. So if there is a situation where it would be a friend, close family member, or someone very personal, then I would request that a deputy handle the situation versus myself. And that has happened. And vice versa, if those deputies are on a scene and it's someone that they know and they love, and it's a conflict of interest really, then I've requested them to contact someone else. Or same thing, if it were a vehicle accident and your loved one's involved in that vehicle accident, even if they haven't passed away, again, potential conflict of interest, and we will excuse ourselves from that situation.
Yeah, or you probably won't even maybe called in. I don't know how that, but like you said, you're prepared for that.
Correct.
And that's part of accepting this position as coroner. So you're technically coroner up till the election, or when's the new one you're running for the coroner, so people understand that, and then there's an individual against you, Scott. Can you give me his last name? Scott Braham. And but you're right now officially into the position until how long?
The new position starts the 7th of January.
Okay, so
through January 6th.
Okay, so no matter what, you're in it till through the end of this year, 2018, and a little bit of few days of 2019. So if people don't understand, it's not the day after the election. His votes have to be canvassed and all that kind of stuff. So Great. Anything else I missed? I'm glad you came, and I've learned a lot. I hope our viewers learned a lot. And really, this is, I think, the way we did this show is a way to help people understand what a coroner does. So when you go there, I'm like, why am I voting for this? And that's probably, this is very good. And I will invite your opponent in as well and talk about his experience or where he is. I've never met him. At least I don't think I have. Maybe I haven't, and I don't know, but we'll get his opinion on what a coroner does and if he's had experience in there, and I will invite him in and we'll kind of go from there. So, but I want to turn that question to you that I said I would.
Okay.
That why should someone at the polls vote for you? And you can tell that audience if you like.
First, I want to just thank you for having me here, because this election process has been great for getting out and educating people, educating the constituents within the county, outside of the county even, as to what this position is. And that's something very near and dear to my heart, and to be able to give people that opportunity to understand, even maybe at just a small level, is great. So thank you very much for having us and for this whole process.
Yeah, thanks for seeking me out, because that's what it's all about. I really like it when the people, because we're here for the people. Right. It's not my show. We're not a regular media. It's really for everybody out there, nonprofits yourselves, to help get information to the community. So thank you.
Right.
All right.
So to answer kind of your question now, on November 6th, I do ask for your vote for re-election for Wood County Coroner. I believe that experience matters, that training matters, that helping people, that being compassionate, being thorough, and being efficient is what matters in this position. I have taken the last 4 years to continually change and build and meet standards, or work to meet the new standards of this position, of the medical legal death investigation system. With that in mind, I ask that you keep an open mind, that you educate yourselves, that you understand what this position is when you make your decision to vote. And I thank you overall for listening to everything that's been said here today, and ask again for your vote November 6th. Thank you much.
Alrighty, again, I want to thank you for joining me on the show, and I hope you guys as viewers are better educated about the coroner position when you get out to vote on November 6th, or if you're casting a vote early. Please tune in, share the program. This is going to be available on our Facebook page. It's going to be available on our YouTube page. It's going to be available on our website, wr-cm.org. You can get to YouTube from there. You can watch it on our channel 3 of Solaris Cable Network and Charter 985, and those times will be listed also on our website. It's also listed on your cable guide. So if you hit guide on our channel, which we're only one of few in the state that have that, please use that. And if you have a DVR, you can record. There's so many ways. We have a Roku channel as well. It's an HD, so if you have a Roku, I can tell you how to get that. Share it is all I can say. And I said about 7 times, but again, thanks, and I'll stop rambling here. And thank you for joining me. I'm Tom Loucks. I'm the coordinator here for the City of Wisconsin Rapids that manages the station, as well as the community director of news for the city as well. So thanks, Dara, for coming by, and good luck.
Thank you.